The following videos comprise basically the greatest hits for QuickBooks 2015 and the enhancements and improvements we made in Premier, Pro, Accountant Edition, as well as Enterprise Solutions. This short video on QuickBooks 2015 feature that is specific to accountants who travel to their clients' offices and are actually working in their clients' non-Accountant Edition QuickBooks programs. And you want to do some cleanup, right? You're used to the client data review tools that you have in your QuickBooks Account Edition. So the big improvement or enhancement for 2015 for accountants would be once you're at your clients, they're in 2015, under the company menu, as long as you're signed into the file, or I should say logged into the file as the external accountant user. And when you're in as the external accountant user, you'll notice an accountant toolbox towards the bottom, I should say, of the company menu. And you can unlock this accountant toolbox, which is essentially all of your tools you know from a QuickBooks Account Edition perspective, but you'll find it in Pro and non-accountant Premier or non-accountant Enterprise. When you're in the external accountant, go to company accountant toolbox, click on that, and you have to sign in with whatever your intuit.com, or I would say ProAdvisor user ID and password is what I'm using here. And once you click continue, it'll sign me in here. And that little window will fall away, go back to Company Accountant Toolbox. You'll notice I have the Accountant Center. I have the ability to batch enter transactions. I have all of the client data review tools, as well as I can the journal entries that I can make are going to be adjusting journal entries, where I have the working trial balance and a better condense of the data where I can do a period copy. So the Accountant Toolbox will become unlocked in your client's non-Accountant Edition QuickBooks 2015 program in their file. As soon as you go to Company Accountant Toolbox, log in, and that is really the big enhancement for accountants this year in QuickBooks 2015. Another tool or enhancement that we added this year that would help the accountant but also their clients, and this is when you're actually transferring files back and forth using QuickBooks Desktop. Under the File menu, you'll notice there's a Send Company File. Now, of course, the Accountant's Copy submenu will be for the Accountant's Copy module in that process where you're sending the transfer file to your accountant, or they work on changes and they send the change file back to you. But also we added the Portable Company File feature under the Send Company File submenu, just in case you guys happen to transfer files or share files through a Dropbox or Google Drive or some other type of portal. So when you click Portable Company File in this case, and I can browse out to the particular Dropbox or Google Drive folder. So I go to my user ID, for Windows, I find my Dropbox folder, and I'm going to go ahead and save the file right here, and I'll remember it next time. It then moves it up into the web version of Dropbox, where then the accountant can go in and restore from that location, or just grab it and bring it down to their hard drive. So the Send Portable Company File just allows you to, through a shared folder system that you guys already have set up, or a shared platform, which would be like a Dropbox or Box or Google Drive, to go ahead and receive that file from your client, and then even send back a portable company file to them. And you'll see that QuickBooks has sent a portable file version to the particular folder, shared platform that I happen to use. It'll put it up on the web-based folder as well for the other party to then get it. So a little bit easier in collaborating with the file transfer with the desktop now. Just go ahead and click OK. And now I'm back in my file as the client. Accountant could do something similar on their end. Again, this would just be under the File menu and Send Company File. This video focuses on some reporting enhancements that we have put into both QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, including the Accountant Editions for 2015 QuickBooks Desktop. First, I'm on a customer balance detail report, and you notice the shading that you'll see. Some gray, some light blue, and white. We're shading between different rows, depending on the report you're on. If I go to a profit and loss, for example, so I'll have some shading that you'll see, cost of goods sold, and the labor's in blue. But so we do it based on what's indented in, let's say, a header row, if you will, versus a sub row. So you'll see that there as well. Now, another big thing you'll notice is this tab, Comment on Report. So I can actually click Comment on Report, and it'll put this little kind of message icon where I can click in and see, what's going on. You could look at the cost of goods sold, and I could choose and put a note here, and these notes actually go when you print it out as well. This looks a tad high for cost. You can save that, you can minimize that there. I'll go down and make another note. here. Whoa, exorbitant, crazy payroll last year. Interesting. Whatever notes you want, you can put on here as you're going through, and you'll find it on almost any report, really, the commented reports, and you can save them and then name it, whatever, comments, and put in the date that you want, date stamp it if you will. And we also put these comment reports under the reports menu. I'll show you that a little later. Now I can kind of X out and it'll bring me back to the profit and loss. Well, let's do the balance sheet as well. Click on comment on report and type in whatever it is that you're doing. You can go ahead and save it. Put as many comments as you need. Go ahead and save the actual report. This will be comments as of 07/28/14. Save that as well. And then under reports, I can go to commented reports and I can print them together, or I can go ahead and just run it. Let's go to the balance sheet report, and there's my comment. When I go to print and then the report and preview it, you'll notice the comments on the next line. So let me zoom in and show you. There's my comment. So commented reports is new for 2015. Now I wanted to show too, before I get into some more of the detailed reports and other enhancements we've added for reporting in general to 2015 QuickBooks Desktop, Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, including the account editions. Under reports, process multiple reports, I can now send multiple reports by email. Right? Nice little change in case you guys ever need to do that. And we also have a bullet point for commented reports, so I can choose that and send both of these to whoever they'd go to. You can email though with your whatever email preference you have in your settings in QuickBooks. So I'm looking at the customer balance detail report. And now if I click customize report, you'll notice that you can search columns. There's a search field both for columns on the display tab as well as filter. Right? So if you just can't find it, and we did add one, preferred delivery method. Very exciting. So I add that, and now I have my preferred delivery method as a column on reports this year. Great for customer and sales related reports. Also, if I go back to customize report, you'll notice I go to filter. I can actually then filter by inactive names as well. As long as I choose all customer jobs, I can filter and just look at active. And I'll only be looking at my active customers. Excellent enhancement there for reporting. Now, if I go over to my inventory stock status report, you'll notice we added the preferred vendor as a column. And when I go to filters, I can actually filter the report by preferred vendor. Now, there's another big change to reporting I'm really excited about. And I'll give you a hint. These are two kind of custom fields that are columns that you've never been able to really report on. Another hint would be you can call them thing 1, thing 2. Other 1 and other 2, exactly. So if I go to an invoice and customize data layout, columns, other 1 and other 2, they actually work on reports both for columns and for filtering. So you have to, obviously, since they're columns, I need to look at a report that's a detail level report, or that looks at the bottom section of transactions when reporting from a source versus target perspective with QuickBooks reporting. I'll go to the sales by customer detail report, and I added other 1 and other 2, and there they are. So now you can use those for your add them as custom fields or what have you, but it's just great to have those working. I've been with QuickBooks since 2005, and I never have been able to report using other 1 and other 2, and now we can, so pretty exciting. You can also filter by them as well, other 1 and other 2, if you like. Finally, go back to the home page, and you have an Insights tab now. So home page, right next to it, Insights. Pro, Premier, and Enterprise and the account editions for 2015 will have charts and graphs, and I think you get 4 or 5. So here's my P&L, previous income year perspective, total sales by customer, and again I can look at last year. You can change the date range, and then the profit and loss, and then I have the income and expenses, and I can go create an invoice or create a bill respectively. From here you can print this and then even add or take away one of the 4 graphs that you have on the Insights page, and you'll see that and the other reporting enhancements I just demoed in QuickBooks 2015, Pro, Premier, and Enterprise, including the account editions. This video focuses on 3 different transactional improvements or enhancements you'll find in QuickBooks 2015. This one has to do with estimates, and actually the ability, once you invoice totally against an estimate, for that estimate to be closed completely, and it's actually a preference. So I've already invoiced against this estimate. I have an estimate here, and I also have an invoice. So as far as I'm concerned, the estimate's closed. However, as you guys might notice, if I were to create an invoice for this customer, I'll see a pop-up here. I don't want to invoice against the estimate. I already have done that. So what we did was we added a preference to allow you to prevent duplicate invoicing against an estimate, right? And we're not talking about progress invoicing here. I'm just talking about where I'm just invoicing completely against an estimate. Edit, preferences, jobs and estimates, company preferences, and you'll see this option, close estimates after converting to invoice. So as long as that's checked off, now the estimate will be closed. So I'm back on the customer center, Adam's Candy Shop, and since I've already created that invoice against that estimate, I'm going to right click or just go create an invoice, put his name in, however you do it. I'm going to tab off and you'll see that there's no pop-up reminding me there's an estimate there because now QuickBooks knows that estimate is already closed because I've already invoiced against it in full. Now the next enhancement, also in Pro Premier and Enterprise for 15, including the account additions, have to do with adding time and cost to an invoice. And it's just a small little change, but it'll be nice because it tells you exactly how many particular time entries or cost or expense or mileage entries do you have for particular customers you're adding it. So if I go ahead and create an invoice for Christina here and I tab off and select the outstanding billable time and cost, click OK. There's just a little number here in parentheses. So I have 2 time entries that I could add. Notice I also have 1 item here. So instead of just seeing the amount, you'll actually see a number as well. And then finally, this would just be for Premier and Enterprise because it deals with sales orders. So I have a sales order here for Edward Blackwell. Let's go ahead and open that up. And when I create the invoice and I choose to create an invoice for selected items, click OK, I now have the option to uncheck something that I don't want to bring over. In this case, it would be soil because I don't actually have anything on hand for that. And historically, you would still see the 0 quantity on hand line item on the invoice that you'd have to remove. So now I can just put the pump and the sparkle pipes on that invoice and leave the soil for the next time that I invoice against that sales order. So these are 3 of the transactional improvements you'll find in QuickBooks 2015. Again, it's the Sales Order 1 Premier and Enterprise. This video for QuickBooks 2015 focuses on the improvements and enhancements that have been made to Enterprise solutions. Now, first off, I'd like to kind of talk about some disallowing features that prevent users from making mistakes. One is selling negative inventory, because that can definitely make a mess of your evaluation reports. So it's the ability just to set a preference to prevent someone from selling, say, this irrigation hose that has a quantity on hand of -5. Right now I could go just create an invoice for it and put it in, and all I get is that current availability pop-up, right? But I could still sell it. Now, if I go to Edit and then Preferences, in Items and Inventory, Company Preferences, there's an option, Don't Allow Negative Quantities. Now, this has nothing to do with sales orders. You still be able to create a sales order, but when I do bullet point this option, I won't be able to put that irrigation hose on either a sales receipt or an invoice. Okay, and it doesn't do anything for negative items or on historical transactions. It would just be for kind of going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. It's going to have me close all open windows. And let's go back to that scenario where I'm going to create an invoice or a sales receipt for that particular item, irrigation hose. And you'll see in red, the transaction, the quantity on hand after is negative, so it's not even going to let me add this irrigation hose item to a posting sales document in QuickBooks. Transaction cannot be saved because the quantity on hand of 1 or more items would go negative. The other kind of disallowing feature, very much of a benefit, is whenever you create new customers and invoices, you know how if you go to the customer center, make that as an example, and I'll just do a new customer. Notice there is no open balance field. Now, how did I get that? Because that, if I put in an open balance, you know, as an accountant or a consultant, it's going to create this amount in uncategorized income, and it's going to drive you insane, right? So how do we get that? Well, it's a preference. So if we go back to Edit Preferences and I go to an Accounting Preference, Company Preferences, you'll have Hide Opening Balance Fields in Names and Items. So definitely check that. Because if you don't, let's add that new customer. There's my open balance as of, okay? And the same when I'm creating a new item. So that would be the ability to check off a box to hide this particular opening balance field on names and items. And that's also in any SKU of QuickBooks Enterprise for 15. How about disallowing users from creating invoices for customers that have an overdue balance to begin with? So let's go down to Natalie Chapman, and I have an invoice for $1,000, right? And she's due on receipt, so this is considered overdue. Now I could easily go ahead and do a sales receipt or another invoice for Natalie, no problem, right? And you just have to look here, recent transactions or a note you might put on, or an aging report or collections report or the customer center. But how about just disallowing someone from creating an invoice for Natalie until she actually pays what she owes? This is overdue, not just an open balance, but I mean, I don't want to create a transaction for Natalie because her invoice is actually overdue. Okay, and you can even find that out on the income tracker. Just look at overdue invoices, and there's Natalie. Okay, so you go to Edit, Preferences, Sales and Customers, and then check the box under Overdue Customers. It says Do Not Sell to Overdue Customers. Click OK there. This would be very helpful. So now when I go from the income tracker or wherever I go to create a sales transaction, you'll see a pop-up. I just cannot sell to customers with overdue transactions. One of my favorite enhancements for 2015 period is a long time request, and that's the ability to put subtotals on different columns on a sales transaction. And it really has to do with the subtotal item. So let's go to the item list for a second. And we're going to go to the subtotal item here that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and edit that item. And I have the ability, columns to total, not just amount, but quantity, price, and cost. So on the sales forms that would have these as columns, when I add the subtotal line item, it's going to do totals there. So let's go back to my invoice, and I'm going to skip this line, go down here, and put on my subtotal line. And now I have a total quantity on the invoice, which you just couldn't get before, the rate, and of course the amount. So those show up right there as well. And even cooler, when I go print preview, because you're going to ask me, it shows up so I can see the totals there. Love that. Let's stay on the invoice. Also in Enterprise, you have the ability to sort the order of the document just by clicking on the column. So almost all the columns are click sortable. You could sort by quantity, rate, what have you. Also on the sales transactions, I can add a cost column. So when I go to formatting, customize data layout, columns, I can add cost. Now it's not printable, it'll just be on the screen only. Click OK. There's my cost column. And I also wanted to mention in Enterprise, you can add the cost column to a sales order as well. So it's already on the estimate, so you have it on the sales order, sales receipt, and invoice now as well. So fantastic. And finally in Enterprise, dealing with inventory and build assemblies, we now have 2 shortage reports for when you have a pending build or when I'm about to go here to an assembly item. And let's say I'm doing the interior door kit and I want to go ahead and create 10 of those and tab off. Not only can I make it pending because I don't have any component parts to actually fulfill the build, I can show the actual shortage. Okay, and it'll go ahead and bring up a shortage report based on that quantity of 10 I want to build for that assembly for the interior door kit finished good. There's a shortage report by item as well as by vendor. And if I click build and close and just make it pending, and I'll just go ahead and close that for now. When I go back to that pending build, let's open it up there, there's a show shortage tab on the left as well. Shortage report by vendor and by item. These are the features in QuickBooks Enterprise Solutions 2015.